How are you doing today, my lazies? This segment is going to be vastly different from what you expect considering the other episodes. There will be a separate series for training ninja under different sensei, so I'll have to skip that section a bit and focus more on just the Tsunade fight and three-way deadlock. I'm excited to get into this one, so with that being said... To start off, we already know how Naruto did against Tsunade, and he was just learning the Rasengan. So we'll give everyone else we're analyzing a slightly weaker version than their Sasuke retrieval forms. To give context, we'll analyze Sasuke in his form against Itachi, Sakura, Shikamaru with a slightly weaker chakra reserve, Choji only using the first pill, Ino, Tenten, Lee, fresh out of rehab like against Kimimoto, Neji with 128 palms, Shino, Hinata with her protective 8 trigrams, Kiba with his slightly weaker Wolf Fang, Tamari with and without Kamatari, Kankuro with all 3 puppets, and Jonin Gaara. Now, the reason for each form is Sasuke against Itachi is a more accurate form to assess, since that's a more accurate assessment of Sasuke around this time than curse mark Sasuke or fresh out of the hospital Sasuke. Sakura, Ino, and Tenten don't really get any development even in fillers, so it's safe to say they don't really get anything significant. Choji, with only the first pill, is a more accurate nerf, as even when he used all 3 pills, he remembered Shikamaru saying not to use more than 1 pill, or at least the final pill, since he actually got to witness Choji not being able to control it at all. I could extend to the second pill, but it's not really gonna help that much. Shikamaru was slightly stronger and gaining new skills by the Sasuke retrieval arc, and he even mentions before the Tsunade rescue even begins that his father was teaching him more jutsu. So it's safe to say he was increasing his capacity beyond what he displayed at the exams, just not as vast as he got in the retrieval. I'd say since he was able to draw against second state Tayuya, a good nerf would be closer to first state Tayuya around that time. Lee being fresh out of rehab is the most accurate display of his skills around this time, as he wouldn't be at his best, and we can't assess a bedridden surgery Lee in a fight, you sickos. So this is the closest nerf that would be accurate enough. Kiba would be an interesting nerf, as it's safe to say he learns the Wolf Fang outright, but he gets stronger over time. So he just slightly weaker with the form lasting a shorter time would be the most accurate assumption. Kankuro doesn't necessarily get stronger, so just having access to all of his puppets is accurate enough since he won't be in an exam setting. Tamari is another case that is a wild card, since we don't know exactly when she made her contract with Kamatari, so we can add it just to give her an edge and difference in skill to show growth. Hinata getting her protective 8 trigrams is highly accurate, since this is the time frame when she supposedly learns it. She displays and claims this was her counter after fighting Neji, and the games show her learning this around that time, and it just shows a better representation of growth, even though she hadn't necessarily used this ability in canon. Same with Neji in the 128 palms. This ability is anime canon, but not manga canon, so it's more fun to look into how the ability shows his growth here, since he learned it after losing to Naruto. Gaara just uses more of his abilities in base now to showcase his skills, so it's actually more accurate to just say Jonin Gaara is him not being cocky and having a larger terrain to work with. Adding in someone even more impressive, we have Shino, who didn't get his promotion, but was certainly a high Jonin threat at the time, and there are even fillers and databook statements showing he had increased his taijutsu skills around this time to compensate for his only weakness. Unlike Gaara, he actually learned taijutsu counters and trained against a taijutsu specialist. I'll even add in the teachers just to give a more fun analysis of how they stack against Lady Tsunade. I'll even add in some of the proctors, Itachi, and Kisame, since all of them appear in this arc. Now, for the shortest part of this segment, and to explain how the rest of this will go, we'll analyze the proctors and teachers. Now, no one I'll name on this list, save maybe one or two, stand a chance of beating Tsunade, so it's more of an analysis of how they outperform Naruto if possible. Starting with the weakest to analyze, we have the Academy teachers. These guys only know basic abilities, with Iruka being the only one to know stealing jutsu. So all of them perform much worse than Naruto, as he's actually high Chunin level at this point, and most of the proctors and teachers are either barely Chunin or Tokubetsu Jonin. Speaking of the proctors, I can see Genma being the only one to perform the closest to Naruto, given his ability with flying Raijin. Hayate would also fare closer to Naruto, as he was at least able to cut through Baki's rock skin, which is similar to Kakuzu's diamond skin, albeit that was literally all he could do to him, and he's a Tokubetsu Jonin. Aoba frightened Kakuzu, so it's safe to say he'd actually give Tsunade a decent enough sparring match. Yes, all of them showed up, except Hayate, since he's KIA, in this arc. Even adding Anko and Ibiki, I said they slightly outperformed Naruto due to their abilities, but not close enough to actually make her try. Moving into the beginning, we already know all of the girls get washed, with Temari being the one that lasts the longest. None of them have a way to outperform Naruto, but Temari's wind and even adding Kamatari would force Tsunade to use more power to counter. Tenten wouldn't even be a match, considering what she did to Naruto with one finger using his own kunai. Yes, Tenten idolized Tsunade, so she'd be more determined, but similar to Temari, to a much lower degree, would only have a distance advantage, and that still wouldn't be enough. If you really need a Sakura and Ino comparison, go rewatch the series, please. In conclusion, Temari and Tenten can force her to use more power due to their arsenal, but their actual skill increase wouldn't really do much. On to the weaker boys, we have Kiba and Akamaru getting embarrassed worse than Naruto, even with their larger form. Lee not being able to match her speed or overpower her finger at this time. Choji is just massively overpowered at this time, and Shikamaru being able to outperform Naruto with sheer strategy against Tsunade, but not being strong enough to actually bind her. Moving into the realm where everyone definitely outperforms, we start with Hinata. Now, I know she should have been mentioned with the girls, but she's actually a wild card. She's the only one that can actually push Tsunade to take her serious, however minuscule due to her ability and actual skill. A Hyuga in general takes much more effort for a brawler, so one with a projectile would take that superiority cockiness away a bit. Same with Neji, but to a lesser degree. Shockingly, she'd be forced to try against him if he uses the reflexes gained through the 128 palms. His only disadvantage is he doesn't have a projectile to force her to try harder than Hinata. Sasuke would be able to slightly outperform Naruto since his arsenal is more vast, he has projectiles, and his Sharingan could give him a brief advantage with Genjutsu and Lee's Taijutsu speed, but just like Lee, it's not nearly enough, and Lee could at least use the first gate after surgery. On to the major threats that she'd have to humble completely, we start with Kankuro, who would have all of his puppets and a way to force Tsunade to actually take him serious, since his traps would actually become annoying after a while, and her rival is Lady Chiyo, who also uses puppets. On to Gaara, while Tsunade souls him in all forms, I don't think she'd allow him to go further than base after realizing he's a Jinchuriki and her physical strength is akin to Gated Guy, who severely eclipsed Gated Lee, and her speed is definitely above anyone at the exams, so the sand is not an issue, and she has Katsuyu for the larger forms. The physical strength difference is too massive for Gaara to win, as Kage Gaara was even struggling to match Tsunade, and his sand was enhanced by Onoki, and she's only nerfed by her hemophobia. Shino is another one that can actually force her to go all out, as his arsenal is just hard for everyone to combat. I don't believe he'd be able to absorb her full chakra capacity at this time, but his intelligence and arsenal, along with her knowledge of the Leaf clans, would force her to try a great deal against him versus everyone else, even with her mitotic seal release. The Jonin captains would only have Guy and Kakashi that could actually compete. Baki, Kurenai, and Asuma are all A-rank threats, with Asuma being the only one that could actually compete a little, while the others get mega washed, with only slightly more effort than she uses against Naruto. Kakashi and base Guy, along with Kabuto and Tsunade, are stated by multiple people to be the same tier, including Tsunade treating Kakashi like an equal when they first meet at the hospital. Kabuto feared Kakashi, yet didn't even hesitate to clap Tsunade while holding back, and she has a much more frightening title and legacy. That goes to show that Kakashi would be able to match or outright beat Tsunade with high difficulty, since they're the same tier, and Guy with the gates would wash Tsunade without question. Tsunade isn't even Kisame tier. She's blatantly not stronger than Orochimaru, who is more comparable to Kisame. Her summon is comparable to the Shikaku, with an arsenal that could maybe help her up to the Two Tails if you want to be extra generous. Couldn't even beat Kabuto 1v1 or an Orochimaru without arms. So a serious battle against Guy is not within her power range. Maybe up to a third gate guy at the most, and that's still being generous. Now, for the Kabuto fight, this is actually going to be much more interesting. Now, cat out of the bag, the only sensei that can beat him outright are Kakashi and Guy, with Asuma maybe pulling an extremely high difficult win. Kabuto is highly skilled in Genjutsu, and Baki was afraid of him, so they do not stand an inkling of a chance. Already explained Guy and Kakashi against Tsunade, so that same assessment goes for Kabuto, even in an all-out battle. None of the proctors, teachers, Anbu, or Genin girls stand a chance against him, except maybe Hinata, due to Arsenal alone, and even that isn't a good enough argument here. Kiba, Choji, and Kankuro get washed, since he literally has too much intel on them, and their arsenals won't give him a challenge given his intelligence and skill set. Sasuke and Shikamaru would actually give him a bit of a challenge, but not as much as Naruto. I've said it and I'll say it again, Kabuto is literally the smartest character in the series from pure IQ and intel alone, and that's shown. His battle IQ is shown in the war alone. He's commanding an entire army and creating contingencies on the spot, and would have won the war even with Naruto and be there, but he got shafted by Plot Zanami. That's for anyone that wants to argue Kabuto is only book smart and can't make on-the-spot strategies in battle. That being said, he just blatantly bullies Sasuke even with Chidori, and Shikamaru isn't strong enough or smart enough to dwarf his arsenal or intelligence, and Kabuto has all the data on his abilities, even at full power in Shippuden. Lee is not a match for Kabuto at all. Speed, power, force, yes, but Kabuto can regenerate and knows how the gates work inside and out. So sacrificing a limb or two to tag his heart mid-battle isn't out of his realm of expertise or skill, as Tsunade is faster than Lee, especially Kid Lee in all forms. So that's not even a fair fight for a brawler to face a fighting medic with the skill and power to use his skills to their fullest. The only people that give Kabuto anywhere near a challenge are Neji, Gaara, and Shino. Neji's arsenal is the direct counter to Kabuto's medical ninjutsu, as he can literally cancel it and channel a chakra virus into him like he did Kidomaru if he ever comes in contact. The Byakugan is apparently immune or highly resistant to Genjutsu, and Neji isn't an idiot. So while Kabuto outsmarts him, it's not to the degree of everyone else. Again, Arsenal is Neji's only saving grace here, but he still gets packed. Same with Gaara and Shino. Their arsenal can put most people to their limit, but against someone with all the intel and as efficient as Kabuto, they truly don't stand a chance. They have to have an arsenal he can't overpower, a speed he can't counter, skills that he can't compete with, or an intellect that matches his. Gaara in all forms gets clapped as Kabuto has shown he can actually summon Manda if needed, and he's got all the intel on Gaara and Shino now due to the exams, so I'm sure he'd have massive contingencies, but that doesn't mean they can't perform the same as Naruto. Contrary to popular belief, Naruto didn't actually beat Kabuto in their confrontation, as he's able to get up and still summon Manda for Orochimaru. So while I believe Shino, Gaara, and Neji can outperform Naruto, I don't think they can actually win. Now, as far as the deadlock, we'll just replace Jiraiya and Tsunade with the actual full teams against Kabuto and Orochimaru. We already saw how Naruto did with Tsunade and Jiraiya, but again, that was a special scenario. Naruto with his team is a completely different story. While I said Kabuto claps them individually, together he does not stand a chance, and Orochimaru can't use mini jutsu, so he is severely nerfed, but not enough for anyone to win 1v1, as not even full power Tsunade could do that. This would be the Zabuza situation all over again, and Sakura getting clapped and forcing Naruto and Sasuke to carry while worrying about her and Kakashi being distracted against Orochimaru and possibly still losing to him. Without Sakura, they actually do have a better chance here, but the weakest link will be used against them, and they have no counter for it since none of them can 1v1 Kabuto except Kakashi. Team Asuma would actually fare much better this time together, as everyone but Ino can carry themselves. Not in a 1v1, but as a team. Their weakest link can actually give them an advantage if Shikamaru plays to Kabuto's hubris and distracts him long enough for Ino to catch him off guard. Butterfly Choji and Shadow Strangle Shikamaru would be a great counter for Kabuto or Orochimaru individually. Asuma is the only outlier, as he's still more powerful, just not strong enough to take on Kabuto or Orochimaru alone, however nerfed. Due to how the team functions, this can actually go either way. Team Kurenai does slightly better than Team Asuma due to the skill level gap between Kurenai and Asuma. Kurenai and Kiba would now be the weakest links on the team, with Shino and Hinata being the wild cards. Usually it's Kiba and Hinata, but with her new skill, she's much more useful. Shino, with a bit of help, can actually beat Kabuto, but they need Shino to go against Orochimaru, and no other 2v1 or 1v1 works here. Shino is literally the centerpiece and only deciding factor, with Hinata being the best defense. Kurenai and Kiba could hold back Kabuto long enough for a Hinata and Shino combo to high diff the nerf Orochimaru, but still, that's a bit of a stretch like the previous team. Now, for Team Baki, the trio siblings can actually pull a win against Orochimaru, however, high difficulty even in this state. The only issue is Baki versus Kabuto. Kabuto definitely claps him, but if the team is okay with sacrificing him just to beat Orochimaru, they actually win here. But given the new Moral Gaara, that wouldn't be the only downfall or nerf for this team. This team can definitely win or stalemate, but that doesn't mean the Snake Duo can't do the same if they play their cards right. And Team Guy stomps. End of story. No, there's no glaze, and I would actually be glazing Shino more considering his analysis, but really guys, give me a confident way you see this team losing. Now, obviously, played correctly, any battle can go either way, but this matchup is completely imbalanced, and the nerfed team has no way of countering gated Guy. Even with intel, this is what I said earlier, he completely dwarfs them in power and speed, unlike Neji and Lee. Guy can take on both alone, but narratively, even having the kids fight Kabuto and he fights Orochimaru, there's not really a win con for these guys, as the weakest link on their team is hard to capture and she doesn't use close range. So even taking out her tendons and muscles won't help. Neji's perception, Lee's speed, and Neji's reflexes in the same fight would not be a favorable combo for Kabuto. Can he win? Extremely high diff, maybe even with the nerf Lee. But they have a mid-diff win here, even if Guy fights solo. To wrap things up, the Snake duo, while nerfed, and Tsunade are forces to be reckoned with. The title of Sani isn't a joke, and the feats we see from even the nerfed Orochimaru and Tsunade far outclass everyone else, and even Kabuto's feats are insanely impressive. 1v1, the others don't stand a chance, but in a team environment, they stand a sliver of a chance, unless they're gated Guy who just dwarfs everyone on the list. Let me know your thoughts and concerns down below. I'm sure there's some contention and disagreement somewhere. If you like this content and want more like this, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and don't forget, until next time, stay lazy.